The galaxy had never seen a species rise so fast from the ashes of humiliation. 30 years ago, Earth was nothing more than a joke among the stars. The Empire, rulers of 17 star systems, had made sure of that. Emperor the Magnificent had personally led the fleet that surrounded humanity's home world. He did not come to conquer. He came to humiliate. The year was 2147, when the massive warships blocked out the sun over every major city on Earth. Emperor broadcasted his message across all human channels. His voice dripped with contempt as he spoke to the entire human race like they were insects beneath his boot. He demanded that Earth's leaders crawl on their knees before his holographic projection. He forced them to kiss the ground while billions watched in horror and shame. The world leaders had no choice. The weapons could turn the planet to dust in seconds. But did not stop there. He found entertainment in human suffering. He ordered his soldiers to take precious artifacts from every nation. Ancient treasures that told the story of human civilization were loaded onto cargo ships. The Declaration of Independence, priceless paintings, religious texts that billions held sacred, all taken as trophies. Emperor laughed as tears rolled down the faces of Earth's representatives. The final insult came when declared Earth a protected wildlife reserve. Humans were classified as primitive animals, not worthy of galactic citizenship. The Empire marked human space as forbidden territory, not because they respected humanity, but because they considered humans too primitive to even enslave. Other alien races were forbidden from trading with Earth or sharing technology. Humanity was to remain in darkness forever. Returned to his throne world, Prime, carrying human artifacts as decorations for his palace. For years, he told the story of how he made Earth's mightiest leaders grovel at his feet. It became his favorite tale at royal banquets. The entire galaxy laughed at humanity. Earth became a symbol of weakness and shame. But Emperor made a terrible mistake. He assumed that humiliation would break the human spirit. He could not have been more wrong. In the decades that followed, something remarkable happened on Earth. The nations of the world united like never before. The petty conflicts that had divided humanity for centuries suddenly seemed meaningless. Every human being shared the same memory of that terrible day. Every child grew up hearing stories of the humiliation, and every human heart burned with a single desire. They would never be weak again. Scientists worked day and night in secret underground facilities. Engineers pushed the boundaries of what seemed possible. The minds from every nation came together with one goal. They studied every piece of technology they could find. Scanners had recorded the energy signatures of the alien ships. Fragments of alien materials had fallen to Earth during the visit. Human scientists analyzed everything with obsessive determination. What they discovered changed everything. Technology was advanced, but it was also old. The Empire had not innovated in centuries. They relied on the same systems their ancestors had developed thousands of years ago. Human scientists found weaknesses in those systems. They found ways to improve upon alien designs. Within 20 years, humanity had developed technology that surpassed anything the Empire possessed. The first human faster-than-light ship launched in secret. It was called the Phoenix, a name that symbolized humanity rising from the ashes. The ship traveled to distant star systems, making contact with other species who had suffered under rule. There were many such species, eager for allies against their oppressors. Humanity built a fleet in the shadows. Mining operations on asteroids provided raw materials. Hidden shipyards in deep space constructed warships unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Human engineers combined the best alien technology with human innovation. They created weapons that could pierce shields. They developed armor that could withstand cannons. They designed engines faster than anything in the Empire's fleet. Word began to spread through the galaxy about mysterious ships appearing at the edges of space. Trade convoys vanished without a trace. Military outposts went silent. The commanders dismissed these reports as sensor errors or pirate activity. They could not imagine that the primitive humans were responsible. Emperor grew old on his throne. His scales had turned, and his movements had slowed with age. But his cruelty and arrogance remained unchanged. He still entertained guests with stories of humiliating Earth. The human artifacts still decorated his palace halls. He had no idea that his empire was crumbling from the edges inward. The first major battle came at the System, a collection of mining worlds named after the emperor himself. A fleet of 100 human warships emerged from faster-than-light travel and engaged the defense force. The battle lasted only 3 hours. Every ship was destroyed. Human losses were minimal. The galaxy watched in disbelief as news of the battle spread. More victories followed. Human forces liberated planet after planet. Species that had been enslaved by them for generations found themselves suddenly free. They joined humanity's growing alliance. The fleet expanded with each victory, incorporating ships and soldiers from dozens of grateful species. Emperor finally understood the threat when human ships appeared in the skies above his core worlds. He threw everything he had at the invaders. Massive war fleets launched from every corner of his remaining territory. Ancient weapons systems that had not been activated in centuries powered up for battle, but nothing worked. Human technology was simply too advanced. Human tactics were too unpredictable. Human determination was too fierce. The final battle took place above Prime itself. 5,000 human ships faced the last great fleet of the Empire. Emperor watched from his palace as his mightiest warships exploded in the sky above his world. The battle lasted 2 days. When it was over, not a single military vessel remained. Admiral Sarah commanded the human fleet. She was the granddaughter of one of the leaders who had been forced to kneel before 30 years ago. Her grandmother had died carrying the shame of that day. Sarah had grown up with stories of that humiliation. Now she stood on the bridge of the flagship Humanity's Fury, looking down at the planet where her family's honor had been stolen. The message she sent to the planet's surface was simple. Emperor would surrender himself immediately or face the complete destruction of his world. For 3 days there was silence from the palace, could not believe what was happening. His advisors begged him to surrender. His generals told him there was no hope. His own children pleaded with him to save their lives. But pride would not let him accept reality. He had spent decades believing humans were primitive animals. How could animals defeat the mighty empire? On the 4th day, human shuttles landed in the palace courtyard. Soldiers wearing advanced combat armor marched through the golden halls where human artifacts still hung on display. They walked past the very spot where Earth's leaders had been forced to kneel. They kicked down the doors to the throne room. Emperor sat on his ancient throne, trying to maintain some dignity. His royal guards had abandoned him. His court had fled. Only a few terrified servants remained, cowering in the corners. The old emperor straightened his back and prepared to face his enemies with defiance. Admiral walked into the throne room with measured steps. She stopped 10 feet from the throne and looked at the creature who had humiliated her people. Was smaller than she had expected, old and frail. The monster from the stories of her childhood was just a tired old alien clinging to a golden chair. She did not speak, she simply waited. The silence stretched for long minutes, tried to hold her gaze, but something in those human eyes unnerved him. They held no hatred, no anger, no desire for cruel revenge. They held something far worse. They held absolute certainty. His legs began to tremble. His claws gripped the armrests of his throne until they cracked. Memories flooded his mind. He remembered making those human leaders kneel. He remembered laughing at their tears. He remembered calling them primitive animals. Now their descendants stood before him with the power to destroy everything he had ever built. Slowly, painfully, Emperor rose from his throne. His old legs shook as he descended the steps. Each movement was agony for his ancient body and his wounded pride. When he reached the floor, he stood before Admiral. For a moment he tried to speak. He tried to find words that would save his people, his world, his legacy. But his voice caught in his throat. His legs gave way beneath him. Emperor the Magnificent, ruler of the empire, conqueror of worlds, fell to his knees before a human woman. Tears rolled down his scaled face as he lowered his head to the ground. His body trembled with sobs as he pressed his forehead against the floor. The same floor where he had forced Earth's leaders to grovel. The same palace where he had displayed his stolen trophies of human humiliation. Admiral looked down at the broken emperor. She felt no satisfaction in his suffering. She felt no joy in his humiliation. She felt only a quiet sense of justice completed. The circle had closed. The debt had been paid. She spoke her first words since entering the throne room. Her voice was calm and steady. She told that humanity was not like his empire. They had not come for revenge or cruelty. They had come to end tyranny in the galaxy. The people would not be enslaved or humiliated. They would be treated with the dignity that had to so many others. But there would be consequences. The empire would be dissolved. Its conquered peoples would be freed. The stolen artifacts would be returned to their rightful owners, and himself would spend his remaining years as a prisoner, forced to watch as the galaxy he once dominated rebuilt itself without him. Human soldiers collected the Earth artifacts from the palace walls. Paintings that had not been seen on Earth for 30 years were carefully packed for the journey home. Ancient texts and treasures were catalogued and prepared for return. Each item recovered was another piece of human dignity restored. News of surrender spread across the galaxy within hours. Celebrations erupted on thousands of worlds. Species who had lived in fear for generations danced in the streets. The empire which had dominated the galaxy was finished, and it had been ended by a species they had once called primitive animals. On Earth, the broadcast of kneeling before Admiral played on every screen. People gathered in public squares to watch the moment together. Many wept openly. The elderly who remembered the original humiliation held their close and told them that this was what happened when humanity stood together. This was what humans could achieve when they refused to accept defeat. Admiral returned home as the greatest hero in human history, but she always deflected praise to the generations who had worked in secret, building the fleet that won the war. She honored the scientists who had unlocked the secrets of faster-than-light travel. She remembered the soldiers who had given their lives in the long campaign to reach Prime. The galaxy entered a new era. Humanity took its place among the stars, not as conquerors but as liberators. The alliance they had built during the war became a permanent union of species dedicated to freedom and cooperation. Trade flourished. Technology was shared openly. The dark age of domination faded into history. Emperor lived another 12 years in his prison cell. He watched through a small window as human ships came and went from the world he once ruled. He saw his former subjects build new lives under new leadership. He witnessed the galaxy moving on without him. And every night, he remembered the moment when he had been forced to kneel at the feet of humanity. The same species he had dismissed as worthless animals had brought him lower than he ever thought possible. Humanity never forgot the lesson of those years. They remembered how close they had come to permanent defeat. They remembered the power of unity and determination. And they carried with them always the knowledge that no empire, no matter how vast or powerful, could break the human spirit. The stars belonged to everyone now, and humanity would make sure they stayed that way.